Welcome to Senior Care Simplified. I'm Desiree Kreger, Director of Business Development with Premier Home Care. Joining me today is Phoebe Workman, Director of Marketing with Premier Home Care, and Sharon Major, Director of Community Relations with the Prestige Group. Today we're going to talk about dementia. When is placement right? To some degree, memory loss is a normal part of aging.
That's right, Desiree. 40% of individuals at some point, according to the National Institute of Health, do have some sort of memory impairment or cognitive disability. And it's important to understand some of those signs and symbols and how to work with them at home. And Premier Home Care has a designed team specifically for caregivers to assist during that moment of forgetfulness. You may have an elopement risk, things of that nature, and the caregivers are specifically trained to handle that. When it becomes too much at home is when we really start to look into placement, and that's Sharon's expertise.
I know at Premier Home Care we do a lot of training on site for our orientation for our caregivers, so specifically having them trained in dementia and Alzheimer's, and really being prepared before going into the home and dealing with someone that has those diagnoses, because oftentimes things are different from those that are just dealing with maybe a cancer diagnosis or a cardiac issue. Really, that specific training and that background in memory care is super important.
At Prestige Administrative Services, we strive to help the population of dementia, and dementia really extends beyond Alzheimer's to vascular dementia, to different kinds of brain tumors, etc. So anybody that has cognitive impairment could be considered to have a dementia. Really, when somebody's looking for placement, whether it's going to be in a skilled memory setting like a Prestige building or in a personal care memory setting, there are some things that they find first at home. Usually people will start to think that they're not able to care for a loved one at home when possibly the person with dementia is starting to develop hallucinations or wandering, or their ADLs, they're not able to complete their activities of daily living. So maybe the caregiver is actually bathing them, dressing them, taking them to the bathroom. And that all takes a lot of time. Another thing that happens with people with dementia is a lot of times their sleep-wake schedules are altered. So it's not only an 8-hour job, it's a 24-hour job. And as somebody's dementia increases and their abilities decline, it becomes more and more exhausting for the caregiver. We at Prestige have the ability to do short-term respite placements as well as long-term placements when care in the home becomes too much for a caregiver. But a lot of times, truly, what people see that makes the placement needed, there's a catalyst, and the catalyst could be that the caregiver gets sick. The catalyst could be that something happens with the person that has dementia, or it could be an outside environmental change, that work schedules change, anything like that could make placement needed. It's real important to keep in mind that you shouldn't feel guilty when placement is needed, and as Phoebe will talk about, there's a lot of community support for people that have dementia now that didn't exist before.
Thanks, Sharon. You're right. I think that it's so important to realize that you're not alone, and there are tremendous resources for you out there. Specifically, you can go to alz.org.
Yeah, it's important to know that you're not alone, and that dementia not only affects the individual, but also the family unit. Thank you for joining us today at Senior Care Simplified. Welcome to Senior Care Simplified. I'm Desiree Kreger, Director of Business Development with Premier Home Care. Joining me today is Phoebe Workman, Director of Marketing with Premier Home Care, Bianca Macciola, Regional Director of Business Development at Prestige Healthcare, and Sandy Kerstetter, Vice President of Business Development with Bridges Palliative. Today, our topic is Palliative Care Explained. Sandy, tell us, what is palliative care?
Palliative care is a specialized branch of medicine. It focuses on chronic symptom management for people living with chronic conditions. It's available at any time in someone's healthcare journey, and the palliative care is provided by a team of specialty-trained doctors, nurse practitioners, and other specialists who work with a patient's primary care physician and their entire medical team. The ultimate goal of palliative care is to promote the improved quality of life for both patients and their family and caregivers.
At our centers, we're very excited to have added palliative care to our programmings, and we are actually utilizing it as a collaborative team effort to really look at all of the different chronic symptom management for our patients, comfort measures, plans of care, pulse forms, and really providing that additional layer of transition for our families, because we all know that it's very difficult. Transitioning from one level of care to another can be very difficult, not just for the residents, but the families. And we are caring for the entire family unit. Palliative care really meets us and it helps us fulfill that gap of care that we're looking for, to collaborate with our physicians, our consulting physicians, and our entire team and families.
It's so nice to know that there is that additional layer of care, especially when we know that there really is no universal plan for all aging population.
For sure, and I think that it's important to identify the fact that palliative care doesn't necessarily mean hospice care. Could they run simultaneously together? Absolutely. Could palliative care be in the home or in a skilled nursing facility? Absolutely. So identifying the difference between palliative care, what it is, what it isn't, and who it helps is definitely important. I think it's what we did here today. Thank you, ladies. A lot of great information here today. Thank you for joining in Senior Care Simplified. Welcome to Senior Care Simplified. I'm Desiree Kreger, Director of Business Development with Premier Home Care. Joining me today is Phoebe Workman, Director of Marketing with Premier Home Care, Kelly Richardson, Director of Community Relations with Brandywine Senior Living, and Sharon Major, Director of Community Marketing with Prestige Healthcare. Today's topic is levels of care in senior living. Kelly, tell us more about the levels of care and who's appropriate for which level of care.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me here today. I'm here to talk to you about something I'm extremely passionate about, which is educating families and residents about what levels of care exist within the senior health care realm. Just like many things in life, senior health care truly is an umbrella, and I think the simplest way to simplify it is by breaking it down into 4 sections, which would be your independent care, your personal care, your memory care, and your skilled nursing side. Your independent care is going to be for that senior that you know that is still very social, but starting to slow down and maybe need some support with light housekeeping, maybe a meal or two, but still more socially based. Your assisted living, or in Pennsylvania, often personal care setting, they are going to assist with the activities of daily living, like possibly grooming or hygiene, even some medication management, and still a clinical support, but social support model as well. Your memory care is, once again, can be relatable to that assisted living or personal care side, with the distinction that the individual in this community is often needing support socially, physically, or cognitively from a cognitive deficit like dementia or Alzheimer's. In Pennsylvania, it's key to note that, once again, these communities are often private pay. To speak to you more about skilled nursing, I'd actually like to transition this over to Sharon.
Thank you, Kelly. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about our centers and skilled nursing facilities. They're designed for a higher level of care when seniors' needs cannot be met in independent living, personal care, or personal care memory care. People usually turn to our centers, which offers 24-hour monitoring of skilled nursing services. We have two different levels or two different types of care. We have long-term and short-term care. The first one I'd like to talk to you about is short-term rehabilitation care, and that's a bridge for the senior when they have a hospital stay till they're going to go back to their location in the community, which sometimes can be a personal care or an independent living, and sometimes is their home. So during that time, we provide their medical monitoring and their rehabilitation, and that stay is covered under insurance. We also do long-term care, and for long-term care, that's somebody that can no longer live home independently, either at their house or in independent or personal care or memory care. And those type of stays, the long-term stays, are either covered by private pay or Medicaid, which is financially determined.
Great information. It's so important to understand where your loved one fits in and where they are as far as their level. And I think it's important to not only identify what their needs are, but to talk with a professional to support you when you do make that decision for your loved one, for your family member. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us today, Senior Care Simplified.